Step one, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step two, get some good, some food in you. Step three, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step four, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Good morning, and welcome to Good Morning Crypto, where we turn your early hours in the morning into your edge in financial freedom. Today, I've got a few headlines. They're not on the American data drop, but they touch on the European data drop that's coming this week as well. We do have the markets pricing in no rate cut, and it looks like we're seeing some price action already in the morning, both on the crypto side of things and in the TradFi side of things. So let's hop over to that stock heat map and get that all going for you this morning. We've got Apple sitting down just a smidge from its close on Friday, down 0.39%, and in the pre-market seeing some sell-off as well, down 0.77. We've got Nvidia down 3.12%, and in the pre-market seeing some big sell-off so far, down 11.96%. It was sitting at 15% down just a little while ago. We do have Berkshire Hathaway sitting up a 0.73 in the pre-market, seeing some light sell-off, down 0.36. We've got Amazon sitting down 0.24 from its close on Friday. Was seeing some heavier sell-off in the pre-market, and now just sitting down 4.21. We've got Eli Lilly sitting up at 2.45 in the pre-market, seeing some sell-off as well, down 0.82. It was down almost 9% just about 15 minutes ago. We've got ExxonMobil sitting down a 0.35 off of its close, sitting quite neutral in the pre-market right now, up 0.09. We've got Tesla sitting down a 1.41 just about 15 minutes ago as well. It was sitting down almost 7% in the pre-market right now. It's sitting down a 3.82. We've got P&G sitting down 1.22 from its close in the pre-market, looking quite nice, sitting up a 1.01. We've got Microsoft sitting down a 0.59 from its close on Friday, and the pre-market also seeing some sell-off, down 5.85%. We've got Google sitting up a 1.16 in the pre-market, also seeing some sell-off, down 3.29 right now. It was down almost 5% a little bit earlier as well. We are seeing Meta get some sell-off in the pre-market as well. It was sitting up a 1.75 from its close in the pre-market, sitting 3.76% down. It was sitting down quite a bit more than that just about 15 minutes ago. We have started to see a little bit of buying pressure coming in. We do have Bitcoin sitting down at 3.71, Ethereum sitting down at 5.4. We've got XRP sitting down at 7.64, Solana sitting down at 6.09. We've got BNB sitting down at 2.34, Doge sitting down 7.09, Cardano sitting down 7.57, Tron sitting down 3.35, and we've got Chainlink as a big loser sitting down a 9.84. Looking like it's going to be a sea of red for the morning, and we're just going to be looking for those bouncing points. We do have some data coming out of the U.S. this morning. That's going to be the Chicago Fed National Activity Index, looking for quite neutral on that. It was prior down, so just going to have to wait and see how manufacturing's doing. We do have new home sales as well, looking to tick up slightly. We will get the month over month for that as well. At 10:30 Eastern Time, we will be getting the Dallas Fed Manufacturing Index. It was prior at 3.4. We'll kind of have to watch how things go. Manufacturing has ticked up the past month, but a lot of that has not been new orders. It has been backlogged orders. So we'll have to keep our eye on that as well. Looks like the market's pricing in a bunch of bad data this week, or that the data isn't as positive as they've been hoping for. We do have durable goods orders coming out tomorrow, this as well as later in the week on Wednesday, we will be getting that Fed interest rate decision. It has been priced in no change so far, so we'll have to see if they actually do no change. And it's a little bit worrisome as we're seeing inflation tick back up a little hotter than we've been hoping for. That you might have to start seeing them look at hiking rates this year. We'll just have to keep our eyes on that. And if inflation starts getting above that 3% target, then you might look at them hiking some interest rates. Will really just depend on how some of these tariffs counteract things going forward, because you have been seeing a weakening of your dollar as well. RCN246 saying, hope nobody is over leveraged. So do I. It is a sea of red out there this morning, both in TradFi and crypto. So looking like we might be seeing some good buying opportunities head our way, though. We do have GDP coming out on Thursday. That will be the biggest market mover for this week. We are looking at a bit of a slow up on the growth rate on quarter over quarter. So this is something you're not wanting to see. This is a contracting of the economy, which I know me and Piper have both talked about for quite a while now. And we also have a little bit later in that day pending home sales, which is looking to decrease quite heavily in that forecast from the prior, down 0.09% from the 2.2 that it was at before. We also have the core PCE on Friday. This will be another big market mover, looking to tick up just a little bit, and that's not the direction we want to see things heading. It is sitting at a 2.8 for that year over year, looking like the forecast is going to be on target with that 2.8%. But we'll have to keep our eyes out, because I think we might see a little bit of a heating up on that core PCE year over year, which means that both the year over year and the month over month would be heading in the wrong directions. We also get personal spending and personal income, as well as that personal price index year over year at 8:30 as well. So a very heavy data week, and we might be seeing that coming down just a little bit lower in a lot of your assets. Let's say hello to the chat. We've got a lot of people in here this morning. We've got Jeffrey Stonesire, Rashad in there. We've got Alexandra G, the Mod Queen. We've got username Kyle Fields. We've got Crypto Coin Mindset. Good morning to you. We've got Jay Violet, Donato Cabrera, and Jake Fain. I'm so cooked. Someone give me hopium and tell me my crypto holding prices will eventually get back to at least break even if it takes years. And this is something that I know a bunch of people might be feeling, especially with how red the markets are, depending on where they've bought. It really just depends on your time horizon. If a bunch of these projects are sturdy projects inside of that top 10, then I have no doubt that when we get to that next cycle, or even if it takes a few months to see a bit of a cool off, which would might extend the cycle just a bit, you would see yourself back in some profit. If your time horizon is a lot longer and you have conviction, all of these dumps are times to buy. And when we get to those heavy bear market, that's when you start loading in even heavier. And if you DCA all the way down, by the time you get, I believe it's 2/3 of the way back up to where you had started DCAing, you should be in profit. So just a time horizon thing, and there's plenty of ways to play this so that you don't end up taking big losses. You might have to change your strategy just a little bit, but as long as you protect your capital and you have conviction, you should be able to get back in the green. We've got username saying, BC, your favorite coin XRP is down. Yeah, the whole market's down though. So XRP was probably going to be making a drop though after its 600% rally to the upside. So I've definitely been keeping my eye out for that one. We got username saying Rachel Maddow was talking about Trump EO on crypto last night, comparing it to Beanie Babies. How many times can they reaffirm we hate them? As many times as it takes. They have no problem with it, username. Especially when you talk about people that don't fully understand something, they've never actually dived into anything, they've never read a white paper, they're probably gonna have very bad comparisons. So I see a Moho in the chat. Good morning, drop in that rib emoji. Good morning to you, Moho. We've got the stock market sitting at neutral, up a point from its close on Friday. I would look at that coming back down quite heavily, because as you saw in that pre-market, we are seeing a heavy sell-off, especially when you're seeing Nvidia down 12-13% in the pre-market. If this continues into our market open, there's going to be a big slide on that fear and greed back to the bottom side. I did say that I wanted to see us hit extreme fear on that stock market side of things. I think this might be the start of that trend back to extreme fear. Crypto is sitting down 2 points, sitting in light greed. We will have to see what it says tomorrow if we don't get a strong bounce. But I think we head back a little bit closer to that neutral range this week. We do have that liquidation heat map. Let's get it refreshed. I pulled that up quite a while ago. As you can kind of see, we're trying to push back up towards the little hot spot that we've got at about $100,000 here. Maybe see some continued downside, because on some of those higher term time frames, we do have some liquidity sitting to the bottom side. We also have a hot spot starting at about 103,000, going all the way up to 100 and almost 4,000 there. It's sitting just short of that at 103,950. If you zoom this on out to that 3-day, which I like to take a look at a lot, you can see most of that liquidity is sitting to the top side of us. But if you zoom that on out just a little bit further, you do have some liquidity that we've been taking out on this move to the bottom side. We did take out a nice hot spot sitting at about 99,100. We do have some light hot spots sitting right below us, about 97,000, and again a little bit lower at about 96,400. Zoom this on out just a little bit more, take a look at that monthly, and as you can kind of see, for the long term, we do have that hot spot still sitting at 71,000. We'll kind of have to see how far we really go, but I've seen a few articles talking about grabbing bottom side liquidity down here. I don't know if we go grab that. I don't think we go grab that, but it will really just have to depend how hard these markets are pricing in the data. Let's take a look at that Bitcoin chart this morning. I do have this pulled on a weekly right now. As you can kind of see, we're dropping below some of my key levels that I wanted us to hold. These were pulled from lower time frame charts, but I did want to take a look at the weekly because we are getting to a crucial point here. As you can kind of see, that MACD line is really close to that indicator line and is getting some nice curvature back down to the bottom side. So we'll kind of have to see what price action this week does, because if it drags a bit lower, you might see that indicator, that cross on our MACD, and you might see a bit more downside heading our way. You do have that prime oscillator sitting at a very indecisive point right now, moving quite sideways, but that true 7 is looking like it's got a bit more of some downside action, pointing a bit down as our money flow and volume are slowing up here on the weekly. Let's zoom that on in to the daily chart, and as you can kind of see here, we've already got that cross of our MACD hitting that indicator line. We're still above that 0 line, but you might see some more continued downside. This doesn't mean that we might not see some bounces along the way, and we'll just kind of have to see some of those bouncing points on things. You do have the money flow, which is light green right now, kind of looking to hold steady here at this range for now. This volume is kind of rolling over just a little bit. Just went from green to light green on things, as our true 7 is also heading back down to the bottom side. You do have that 4-hour chart, which is looking like we might see a bit of a bottom that holds price up for just briefly. You do have some oversold signals coming in, no reversal signals flashing just yet though, so this does lead me to believe that we might see some more downside action on things. We are below my fib retracement on things. If we pull up a higher term time frame one, let's hide this one, go more macro on things, you can kind of see that we are sitting at some crucial levels. Let's get from the bottom, push to the upside, draw that on out there. And as you can kind of see, we are sitting at that 236. And that 236 is looking like we might lose it. You do have plenty of downside here on the daily. So that does look like we might see a bit of a bouncing range at about that 95, 300 I talked about last week. And if not, we do have some nice points at 93 and 91, which is that 382 on things, which would be a nice bullish bounce. If we are unable to maintain that, we do have that 90,000. It's about 90,800 that we did see some heavy buying pressure coming on in. If you zoom this on in to that 1 hour, you can kind of see we're already getting a bit of some curvature here. Your prime oscillator just went green on things. You did see some overbought signals and that reverse signal kind of coming into play. We did get a slight move to the downside as we saw that move back up towards the 236 there. But you might see that all just get ignored very quickly if this money flow does not pick back up on things, especially with some buying pressure. We are very red on things. You got the true 7 coming back up, but that money flows is still looking quite nasty. As you can kind of see, that 382 is going, that 236 is going to be that point that we need to get above. It was right at my key level as well that I wanted to see hold, which might be resistance now. And so we'll need that push back to the upside and that bounce continuation. I would look at a little more downside though. I know we've had some talks right about where we saw that bouncing, and that was 98,000, and we've heard that level talked about a lot. I know Piper has talked about it as well. Let's zoom that on in to the 15-minute and see what the morning is bringing our way here. We do have money flow looking to slow up just a little bit on that selling pressure as the volume has increased. You do have the prime oscillator, which has showed some oversold signals and a reversal. But as we've been getting that move back up on our prime oscillator as well as the MACD, we are not making any big moves to the upside. We're bouncing up against this 236 and struggling to get back above it. You have seen some brief wicks above that, but it looks like this is going to be our local resistance area, as you do see the prime oscillator heating up and your MACD trying to get back to that zero line without being able to move price to the upside too much. So looking for some more downside. Let's hop over to my news articles for the morning. As you can kind of see here, US dollar Euro rallies 2% for its biggest weekly gains in 2 years. Is there more upside? Trump comments at the Davos event for the uber rich sparked hopes that China might be spared from tariffs. Euro logs best week in 2 years. The pair on Friday logged its best week since November 2022, up 2% after comments from Trump assuaged fears around the new administration's tariffs policies. The euro briefly topped a 105 before coming down a little to close Friday's session at 104.91. Earlier Monday, the exchange rate floated near 104.60. Speaking virtually at the Davos conference last week, where the uber rich gather each January, President Donald Trump said he would rather not slap China with lofty tariffs. Previously, he had said there would be up to 100% tariffs on all imports from China. The softer stance potentially towards China helped rejigger the forex landscape as the US dollar sold off across the board. The GBP USD pair also rallied much like its more popular peer and topped 125, up 2.7 on the week. The US dollar JPY was more collected due to the Bank of Japan's interest rate hike, which failed to spark enthusiasm among traders. The muted reaction is largely a result of Japan's central bank not following up with its proper guidance right after it had bumped rates to 0.5. Back to U.S. politics, which is likely to affect the dollar a lot more than when Biden was president. Donald Trump made some questionable comments about monetary policy. I think I know interest rates much better than they do. I think I know it's certainly much better than the ones who primarily in charge of making that decision, Trump said, obviously referring to Fed boss Jay Powell. This said, the Fed holds its regular monetary meeting on Wednesday and is expected to leave interest rates unchanged at the current level. And this is something we will have to keep our eyes on this week. You have been seeing the dollar lose a lot of strength as Trump has backtracked on some of the things he has talked about, but he has talked about levying tariffs across the whole world, as he had said at Davos. He wants to bring manufacturing back to the U.S., and we'll just kind of have to see what happens coming into February, because this is when he said he would be rolling out these tariffs on countries. You already do have the potential for a 25% tariff on both Mexico and Canada, so we'll kind of have to see exactly how much he's going to be laying out across the board. I see Conspiracy Crypto in here. Good morning, good morning. Arsan asking for XRP and SOL. We will get those on the list for you. XRP and SOL. If anyone has any other alt requests they'd like me to take a look at, you can go ahead and drop those in the chat for me. I did have this one. ECB is set to lower borrowing costs after its fifth cut. The European Central Bank is set to cut its key interest rates for the fifth time on Thursday, and then keep pushing borrowing costs lower as concerns about inflation ease and worries about economic growth mount. Investors expect ECB's policymakers to agree with another quarter point reduction in the deposit rate when they meet Wednesday and Thursday. Recent comments from ECB policymakers suggest further reductions in the key rate at each of the three following meetings through June are increasingly likely. There seemed to be a growing consensus about the need for further rate cuts, said Kartizi Berezki, an economist at ING Bank. That would take the key rate down from 2% down to 2% from the 4% it stood at when the rate cutting sequence began in June of last year. This would be roughly in line with estimates of the so-called neutral rate at which the central bank is neither restraining nor stimulating economic activity. The Eurozone's annual rate of inflation picked up towards the end of last year, ending 2024 at 2.4%, having hit a recent low of 1.7% in September, but that was down from 2.9% a year earlier, and a peak of 10.6% in October 2022. Policymakers seem pretty sure that inflation will fall to their target over closing months. This is something we'll have to keep our eye on. They are ahead of us in our rate cutting cycle, the same way that Canada is. So I've been watching Canada quite closely as well. They did see a nice tick back up in inflation, as they talked about here, but they've started to head back in the right direction. They did pause for several months, the same way that we are pausing right now. So hopefully, if things continue to head in a positive direction, we might see that inflation rate slow down just a little bit. I have been eyeing that 3% target, and that's kind of where we might see a switch up in policy. So definitely something to keep our eyes on. The European Union, the European Central Bank, which is ahead of us, and their whole cycle heading in the right direction on things, which brings a little bit of positivity to that market. We do see gold getting a bit of a sell-off now after it pushed up in the morning as everything was dumping in that pre-market. We did get that nice little bounce off of the top side of my Fibonacci extension that I was wanting to see, and we were unable to get to the top of a fib retracement that is drawn out from the push down here to our all-time highs on gold. We are trying to break those all-time highs, and we're just looking to make some continued higher lows on things, so that $2,788, which is that all-time high, is going to be some strong resistance here, as we're looking to cool off just a little bit on our prime oscillator. Your money flow is ticking back up, and that MACD is at a very indecisive point. It is moving quite sideways underneath the zero line. So if we can get some continued money flow coming in, as the markets are quite uncertain of things, I would look at pushing back up towards that all-time high on gold. We do have another point above us, which will be some resistance at that 2,826 range. I was taking a look at the S&P 500 as well. We do see that platinum pocket looking to hold, but as you can kind of see here on our prime oscillator, we are looking quite red, and with the sell-off we've been seeing in the pre-market, we might see that break. We do have a CME gap is sitting right below us, as well as another one right below that one, which we might need to fill on things. Going from candle body to candle body there. Let's make that blue as well, as we like to color those blue. Keep our fair value gaps purple, and buying ranges green on things. So as you can kind of see there, that's that first CME gap that we might come back into, especially if we continue to see some sell-off on NVIDIA. You do have the midline of that being that 6,066 mark, which we might see a bit of some stalling at. I would look at that CME gap being completely closed if that market is extremely bearish at open. We do have that $6,000 and $6,049 being that closing point for the S&P 500. We don't have any clear support here at this golden pocket on our Fibonacci extension, so we might have to come back down back to that $6,019 to turn this into some strong support here. We got very quick moves through it and never really tested a bunch of these ranges as we moved back up. You do see a giant CME gap down here as well. It will really just depend on how bearish the market gets on things at open and the rest of this week as well. I was taking a look at the Dixie. We do have it coming back to some key levels as well. Looking to see a little bit of some buying pressure here for the morning as we try to push back up to that 107.47. But I do think we continue this bearish trend on the Dixie as well. We've got that 106.72 being that key point where if we break below, we saw heavy resistance before. So really getting at some crucial points on the dollar, just like the rest of the market is. I would look at some potential continued downside on that. You move back to this 4 hour, you do see us cooling off on the prime oscillator, seeing reversal signals flash before we try to retake some key levels, but continuing to the downside. That 4 hours getting some nice rollover. The true 7 is clipping down here on the bottom. So looking to try to maintain some of these highs from here, which the way that money's been flowing on things, I don't think we maintain. We do have that 106.72 that I would really look at for that next little bouncing point on things before we might see some continued downside. You do have 105.69 being that next strong level we might try to turn into some support for the Dixie. I see username saying don't talk about BC's favorite project. I'm assuming you're talking about near there. No, I'm kidding. He was talking about XRP, of course, because we had an XRP special with Lunar Beaches Crypto, who just said good morning in the chats. If y'all haven't taken a look at that video, we do have that XRP special that dropped on Sunday, and we really dive quite deeply into XRP. We talk a lot about the technicals of XRP. And if you don't know a lot about XRP, that's a great place to start. It is number 3 on market cap and has been doing quite nicely. We did talk at the end of the show about some upside price targets that we'd be looking at for the top side on XRP this run. So if you don't know a lot about XRP and you're interested in learning, go ahead and check that video out. I see Darren Does Things saying, I'm late, just popping in to say hi at the car dealership, waiting for them to finish sorting my car out. Is it at the car dealership's shop, or are you getting something new? Darren Does Things. I hope you have a good morning and they get that all handled quickly for you. No ill intended. I have to watch the special. Well, I can see if someone can drop a link in the chat for it. If not, I will drop a link at the end of the video so that you can go ahead and check that one out. We did have XRP and SOL requested. I was taking a look at NEAR. It was requested in the Discord this morning, and we are at some key levels for NEAR as well. We dropped quite heavily below the 50% line on my fib retracement that I've had drawn up from the lows to the high of the range. And we're now back at some nice buying ranges. I do think we might see some continued downside on that as we've lost one of those key levels. This 4 hour is not showing any reversal signals as it's getting some slight curvature back to the upside on things, and your MACD has a very, very nice gap from that indicator line on the bottom side of things. So looking for some continued downside on here, just like some of the rest of the market is. We do have the 1 hour getting a bit of some curvature here or right underneath this key level. You are seeing that prime oscillator though moving more sideways as it is light green and looking to kind of roll back over on things and maybe try to see that second reversal signal flashing as we come back down to this $4.32 range that Near liked way back in the past over here. We did see it as some support before we really blasted on out of the range. You do have some more bottom side if we see quick money flow as some selling pressure coming in. We've got a nice key level down here at $4.13 for things. Oh, thank you, Alexander G, for dropping that link in the chat for me. On things, yeah. I I I keep saying it, and I'll probably keep saying it. I do have that more southern coming. It's been coming out more and more. I don't know what's going on. All right, we did have XRP requested, so we'll take a look at XRP, and then we'll take a look at the Sol chart. If anyone does have any other alt requests they'd like me to take a look at, I can most definitely do that. I don't have a whole lot more that I was taking a look at this morning. I was mostly focused on a lot of the sell-off on the TradFi side of things because it was a bit worrisome to open up my trading view and see Nvidia down 14% in the pre-market. So I did start looking at a bunch of the indices because normally if Nvidia sees a big sell-off, you see a lot of these indices drop, and it looks like it might be a bit of a good time to buy some of these indices on the long-term time frame. And I was looking at some of those buying ranges. I like to roll over profits into them and just leave them there forever until I'm ready to retire. So we do have XRP getting some curvature here on the 4 hour, seeing some oversold, but not seeing any reversal signals flash the same way that we did see Near making some nice width from its indicator line on the MACD. We're seeing the same on XRP as well. Just keep getting those fake XRP AI ads. Yeah, it's all over. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed last time when we got the big push to the upside, and it was I can't remember what project it was, but there was a project that it was really explosive back in March, and you couldn't hop on a YouTube crypto show without those fake ads coming on. And it's all I gotta say to people is don't click on it, don't scan the QR codes, don't do anything, because it all is a scam. There's no way that XRP is pumping the market and they're gonna drop 2 billion tokens instead. Like, no, they've already got their plans. They're not gonna give you free XRP, they're not gonna give you free Bitcoin. Don't fall for it. So make sure to tell your grandma too, because she's more likely to click those buttons. Wonder how many people really got scammed. Well, enough for them to pay to put ads out there to keep doing it. So Crypto Coin Mindset heading out. Have a good day, everyone. You have a good day as well, sir. Yeah, so it's something we see very prevalently in the crypto space. Just be careful on the links you click. Don't link your wallet to things you don't know. It is your money, and you got to be very careful with it. As you can kind of see here, we dropped quite heavily below that $3 range on XRP that we were trying to hold for quite a while now, and we have dropped below a bunch of key levels on the Fibonacci extension. Once we kind of lost, let's zoom in on out there. Once we lost that 0.5, we did see us coming back down to that 382 on things, which we're sitting below and trying to make some support at. You do have quite a nice point at the 236 on things that you might see come back into play. I will pull up a Fibonacci retracement on things. So let me get that pulled up. That's a fib extension. Ooh, let me hide the fib extensions. I had a bunch of them from the XRP show. The run to run. There we go. We saw heavy rejections off of that 1618, off of that run to run fib extension, and we're now looking for a fib retracement on things. We are above the top side of that and looking to come back down to the 236 on things. Let's get that drawn out a little bit better for our current range. Let's unlock, go from the lows over here to our highs over here and kind of see where we're sitting. We do have us sitting right, got a nice little bounce off of that 50% line on a fib retracement. So coming back up to the 382 on things, which is that $2.86, which we might see be resistance for us, as we haven't really seen any reversal signals flashing on these higher term time frames. You do have the 1 hour getting the same kind of curvature here as we've been moving more sideways in this range. You don't have the prime oscillator looking too green on things, seeing double overbought signal, oversold signals flashing. Got a brief reversal signal flash before we really continued to the downside on things. We do have the 15-minute coming in as a bit toppy. As you can kind of see here, we did get a brief green run on the prime oscillator before some continued movement sideways in price, which doesn't bode too well for what we might see for XRP. You do have that 382 looking like it's going to be some strong resistance before we try to come back down here and retest that 50% line at about $2.70. We did get some heavy moves to the bottom side of that, so it might be a little weak, and we'll have to try to find those bouncing points but in the middle of that, which might be that $2.60 range. Let's get a horizontal ray drawn out for that bouncing point as well below that 50% fib line. It's looking like $2.6008. So that'd be that point I'd kind of look for if we are unable to maintain and hold this 50% line on our fib retracement. We did have SOL requested, so let's take a look at SOL as well. And let's see, Arsan knows. Don't fall for it, just hate on it. Let's see, Aiko saying have a good day. We got Darren Does Things saying hello to the people in the chat. Buck here. Good morning, Buck. He asked who's buying the dip. I am not. I, like Jesse, am patiently waiting. Because I do think we might see a little more downside on things. I'm waiting on that market open because we did see heavy sell-off in the pre-market, and it does concern me quite a bit. I didn't see any other alt requests for the morning, but if anyone does have anything specific they'd like me to take a look at, go ahead and drop that in the chat. Otherwise, I might wind the show down just about 10 minutes early after I go through SOL, and try to get some more coffee in me, because I have been slacking this morning. I've had no coffee at all, and I'm not liking it that much. I miss the coffees. So let's get a fib retracement drawn out for this current range here. As you can kind of see, we are like we did see on XRP as sitting below a 50% line on our fib retracement. looking for a bit more downside. You do have the same as the rest of what I looked at, seeing a bit of some curvature back to the upside. I see a request for Jupe. Get that added to the list. Jupe. All right, we do see a bit of curvature on that prime oscillator as some oversold signals are flashing, but not seeing any reversal signals like the rest of these assets I've looked at. You do have the same setup on our MACD. We've got heavy width from our indicator line as we've broke below the zero. Looking for some strong support here, and as you can kind of see, the 618 comes quite in line with a bunch of these highs from over here, which we would look at trying to turn into some support. That's going to be that 217.87, where we might see a bit of some bouncing at the golden pocket, because with the curvature that you're seeing and the moves that you do see coming in on the sideways movement for things, as your prime oscillator and a MACD are getting overheated on the short-term time frames, it looks like those key levels might be resistance instead of an area which we get back above. What do you think about the movement on the yields? I haven't taken a look at that. I can take a look at that after Jupe, because I haven't paid attention. But normally when you're seeing the Dixie drop, you are seeing the movement on yields heading in the opposite direction. So I will take a look at that right after this. Let's zoom this on in to the 1 hour, see where we might be headed. You are seeing a bit more of some movement to the upside as opposed to some of these other assets, as you are seeing the prime oscillator move a bit sideways on things, and the MACD trying to hit that curvature, hit that cross of our indicator line on the bottom side. You do have this 50% line at 232, which might be some resistance, or if we can get above it for the shorter term time frame, be the point that we really launch back off of. I wouldn't say that that would be the point that we launch off of. I'm looking at this 15-minute chart. You're getting a prime oscillator looking quite hot. Your money flow is still quite red and selling off as your volume has been picking up quite heavily. MACD looking to try to hit that zero line on things. Gosh, I've now that y'all say it, I really notice how much I say it. So looking to hit that zero line cross as we try to get back up to this 50% line. That's going to be that 232. If we see a bit of some movements to the top side, you do have $238, which might be that next little resistance point that drops us back down to that 50%. Lunar Beaches Crypto, 10-year dumped, but USD JPY didn't do much, and the Nikkei and Euro dumped too, FYI. This is not the carry trade unwinding, just panic selling. Even Dixie dumped a bit. Yes, and this is, I didn't dive too heavily into things. We have been seeing quite a bit of a dip across the board on things. So it's been a little bit worrisome to me to see a bunch of the TradFi sell off, and it's concerning for the long-term economic outlook. So we will have to take a look at that spread on the yields. Let's get that pulled up. Go over to the one that has the yields. We are seeing quite a bit of a sell-off here. You've got that 3-month dropping down, which means that people are buying up those bonds. You are seeing the buy up on that 1 year. You are seeing it on the 2-year as well, looking like it found a bit of some bottoming here, down at that $4 and 17%. Looking to try to push back up just a bit. We do have that 10-year also dropping quite heavily, which means that it's seeing quite a bit of some buying as well. So looking like we're sitting at a bit of a better range. Piper's talked about that 0.5 spread on things, and we're sitting at that 0.4. So looking to try to move in tandem with things and not really widen that. I see the 2 and the 10 spread shrinking. It has shrunk just a bit, but overall it's been moving more in lockstep on the movements. So you can kind of see here it did get that massive push up. The 2 year got the massive push up, and as we've been seeing it be bought up, it has moved it down quite heavily. Let's see what the percentage is to current range. 5% movement. And for the 10-year, if you go off of the highs to the current range, it is moving almost 6%. So just a slight slow up in the spread on things, delaying recession just a bit. Lunar Beaches said it is just a bit, and I don't think it's overwhelmingly positive, because we are at that point where a lot of this data is going to cause a lot of heavy sell-offs on things. This is why you saw gold get that massive push to the upside in the pre-market. You are seeing silver get that nice little push back up to key ranges, trying to look for that blast off. You do see crude at some key levels as well. Finally got that nice little push to the upside on things. Looking to turn these lower side levels into some support here, as your 1 hour kind of looking a bit like it's going to roll over, but your higher term time frames we're looking quite nice. Plenty of room to hit that another curvature for our MACD. Might see a little bit more of some sell off, try to come back down to these areas that we really got that bounce back towards the upside on things. You do have the golden pocket being that $70.35, but really seeing that money flow coming back in on crude, as well as these other inflation resistant assets. You did see P&G being bought up, nice inflation resistant stock to put your money in. You saw Walmart being bought up in the pre-market as well. Nice inflation resistant asset to put your money into. Really seeing the more inflation resistant assets getting bought up on the TradFi side of things, which doesn't look too pretty for the crypto side of things. So just waiting to see how much more movement we get. We do have a bit of some buying coming in that pre-market where things were sitting down 5%. Some of them still are, like a Microsoft. Tesla had a massive sell-off in the pre-market this morning, was sitting down 9%, slowed up quite a bit, sitting at that 4% range. ExxonMobil getting a nice little boost up in that pre-market. P&G, like I talked about, was down 1.22 from Friday, sitting up almost 1.5%. I know it topped out about that 1.5% range earlier this morning. Eli Lilly was seeing some nice sell-off, hit almost 9%. Looking to kind of turn that around, sitting at that 0.44% and getting that move back up to the upside. That's one of those slightly inflation resistant assets that you might try to take a look at. You know, people are still going to buy their medications, and they have been dropping a lot of new medications as well. You did see Amazon sitting down a whopping of almost 7% this morning, still holding steady at that 4.2% down. Nvidia was that big one. It was sitting down 14% when I opened up TradingView at 5 o'clock this morning, and it's holding at that 11% down point quite nicely. Going to see a bit of some sell-off here as we open up. So I didn't see any other alt requests. So we'll just say hello to, we'll just continue talking with the chat here. Let's get over to my screen. Yeah, we've got when the Nikkei and Euro start pumping like a wild, that's when the markets probably crap the bed, says Darren Does Things. And this is something that I've been watching quite closely. You do have these forex currencies as you see the dollar dropping, and you're not seeing massive amounts of strength coming into the rest of things. You have the pound and surprisingly the Mexican dollar getting a little bit of a push to the upside. Uh, but you're going to start seeing some of the Mexican manufacturing moving its way into the U.S., which will weaken that just a bit. You do have the British the British pound, which they're looking to cut rates again, just like the European Central Bank, which does bring some strength to their currency as we maintain our rates. Coin ledger ads are annoying. I get very different ads than you. I don't know why, but I'm getting a college ad right now on mine. So it's like a very big split. I either get crypto or complete nonsensical ads where it's like, oh, try this workout supplement. I'm like, I don't give a crap. But hey, Coin Ledger is all right. I myself make my own wallet. I have several wallets on a hard drive that I've just basically turned into a hardware wallet because it was way cheaper than buying a specific wallet for like $150 when I can buy a hard drive for like $20. A little bit cheaper if you don't get as much storage on it, and you just download your own software wallets on there, and then as you disconnect them from the internet, nobody can do anything with them. So kind of a little bit of a workaround. That's kind of how I go on things. Almost at 101k. He says Bitcoin is moving. It got back to the top side of some key levels that I'd been looking at for this morning. Really getting that overheating on the prime oscillator, looking to kind of cross for the short term. Let's kind of see what that one day, pulling back up on the one day as well, sitting at that crucial level for the MACD. Seeing a bit of some volume, buying pressure volume coming in. I don't know why. Oh, there we go. It didn't switch over. Seeing a bit of some buying pressure coming on on the 1 hour. Looking to hit that cross on our MACD. 15-minute though for the short term is getting quite overheated. The volume is picking up. We aren't seeing a money flow being very much of some buying pressure here. So might just be that pushback up to grab that liquidity that I had talked about on our 1 day chart. Let's get over. As you can see, we had some liquidity residing at that $100,000 range, which I had talked about us potentially going to grab. But before we continue on to some downside, we did have some heavy liquidity for that 2 week sitting to the bottom side of us. About 200 million sitting to the bottom side of us at about 96,000. So that'd be that grab to the bottom side. I'm looking at the 3-month chart. Definitely have a bit of some continued upside there. If you look at a 3-month, I was looking at that weekly to kind of start the show off, and that's where you saw that MACD is looking to cross to the bottom side of our indicator line here, as we're seeing money flow kind of roll over and our volume kind of slowing up as well. The true sevens at a point where we would need to see some clip in, and that's where I think we come back down to that 95,300 range before we see a very strong little bounce to the upside. So that's more a higher term time frame, but we might see, like I said, bounces along the way. It is 6:59, so thank you to everyone that showed up today. I will see y'all in the Alex O Crypto chat. Make sure that you're checking out the rest of the shows on the Piper Academy. We got the morning market report at 9:30 Eastern time. Trade Academy with Trade Intuition at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We've got Crypto Nightcap with TradeFly and FD White at 8 p.m. Eastern, and Markets After Dark with Lunar Beaches Crypto at 11 p.m. Eastern. I appreciate every single one of you for showing up and being here consistently every morning. If you haven't hit that like button, go ahead and hit that like button on the way out for me. Oh, that Jay Violet saying the same thing. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Everyone, wake up, because today is going to be a good day.